Hello, my name is Danielle Warner, and I am a professor in the music department. So I'm over in Ross, and I'm the director of choral activities, which means basically I get to make music all day and specifically hang out and be in choir with a bunch of wonderful singers. Today, I want to share with you my theology of making, how I think about art and my craft and music and the gifts that God has given us. So it's pretty short, pretty simple. God is this divine creator, the ultimate creator. We open with Genesis and we see all of God's creation. We are made in God's image. So therefore, I believe that we are all born to be creators and to be artists, whatever that looks like, whether that's visual arts or music, or you are a chef and plating things visually and also for the palate. So if I have a couple things that I cling to, one, as God creator and being in our image. The second, I think about Psalm 139 and us being knit in the womb and fearfully and wonderfully made. I like to think about this because what this means for me as an artist is that we all have our own voice. We all have our own artistry and creativity within us. I think of this wonderful image of being knit in the womb, even that being made, that image of physically being formed, and that DNA and the combination of all of our life experiences lead us to be who we are as unique individuals. I like to use the imagery of God as creator from Genesis as a reminder for myself and for all of us that there are infinite possibilities when it comes to art, to creating it and absorbing it and enjoying the beauty. So when we look at things like light and day and humans and animals and nature and every little bug and every little blossom that's on the tree or on a flower, and in particular, birds. I have a thing for aviaries. Back home, there's a bunch of peacocks. And so when I'm looking at these peacocks and hanging out with them, they're very loud, by the way. I look at the colors and I simply think, I don't think man can replicate this. I don't think Crayola or whatever other big company could make it. It's just so unique in God's creation. And so being in nature and also looking around at friends and family and just everyday experiences is a reminder of the creation story, and that there's so much art still to be made and created, and that I believe it will be good. I have some overlapping themes in faith and art and making and how I think about those things. The first one is consistency. Big focus of my faith that I love and love to share with others is God's unfailing love. This unconditional love you just because you were born, just because you were made in the womb. And that consistency of showing up and seeing God's promises throughout the Bible. I think that's one of the things it takes to be a maker, is to show up day in and day out. Being creative, being a maker doesn't just happen. I'm not denying that there aren't innate gifts and that some people have a more natural tendency sometimes maybe than others, but the foundational belief is that we are all creators, and that to be constant, to be, develop our life with Jesus, with our prayer life, with our reading of scripture, it takes consistency and showing up. And I believe the same thing about art and making, that showing up, whether it's the studio or outside or anywhere in your own home, that we show up and allow space for that. Secondly, understanding seasons and change. I love Ecclesiastes and there being a time for everything. And that comes across in spiritual journeys. Sometimes we feel closer to God, sometimes feeling like, where are you? I want you to be with me. I think a lot about seasons and change, not only in the beauty of the 4 seasons that we get a little more rain here than other folks, but that the seasons of your life as an artist. So for example, I'm a conductor, which means, I get to conduct ensembles and wave my hands and make music as a group, which is so fulfilling. Another way that I express my art is as a singer. I love singing in choir just as much as I love being in front and help molding that sound. But during certain seasons of my life, so when I became a new mom, I kind of stopped singing as much because of evening gigs or weekend commitments, and focused more on teaching and conducting. And as my child gets older, I think I'm really excited to go back into that season of creativity by singing again. Identity. Identity feels huge all the time. Who are we? Who made us? Who are we supposed to be? What are we going to do with this life that we've been given? Being an artist in the professional world can get a little bit tricky, and I think it's really important for me to come back all the time to Romans 8:38 and 39 that tells us nothing can separate us from the love of God. It's easy when being a maker is also your profession and how you're paying your bills, and we want to pay our bills, and I'm grateful for, food on the table and roof over our head and lights on, and that you're being judged on your work, needing to produce, needing to hit a certain standard, so people invest financially in your art. That makes it difficult sometimes to not also absorb that as identity. Like, oh, I am my art. Because it's also passion. It's also who I feel called to be. All these complicated intersections. And so I think keeping my identity rooted in Christ, and that it's not by the works that I produce. It's by being a child of God, that I am fully loved and fully known. And I think that has elements in my faith journey as well, wanting to just do good works and look what I did, God, and reminding myself to focus on grace, and that it's not by my works or things that I produce or that I do, but that's through God's grace that I am loved and cherished. Why music? Why does it matter? Why should we think about this thing at all that is a gift? And I think that is the key, is that this is an abundant gift. This is, Daniel Levitin has a book called The World in 6 Songs. And he basically talks about everyone from all over the world. It doesn't matter where you look. Our world has people that basically have 6 kind of songs that are always available anywhere you go, geographically, culturally, in churches, social circles, anything. We have songs about friendship. We have songs about joy. We have songs about comfort. We have songs about knowledge and teaching. We have songs about religion and songs about love. And so why a lot of times people say music is the universal language. That's a yes and no, because what may sound like love, a love song to someone, may not sound like a love song to someone else, or a sad song or a happy song. They may not aurally sound the same to us. We may not identify, but that everyone has songs that really tell the story and reflect the emotion. We see singing and we see songs all throughout the Bible. Shouldn't be a secret that I'm biased, right? Like I'm a singer, so I think music is obviously much more than singing and instruments and making music together, but I'm just going to tell you my bias, which is everyone has a voice. Voice is the instrument that God gave every single person. Every single person can sing. It's the instrument you get to take with you everywhere. Isn't that great? You always have an instrument. You always get to be making music whenever you want. Can I go on a tangent and tell you what I don't like about cell phones for just 1 second? In the olden days, when you had the phones on the wall, you didn't know who was calling. So you would say hello, and you would hear hello back, and you would know who it was simply by the sound of their voice. That timbre, the things that we listen for, that color, it's so unique. And just another reminder of our individual being and who we were created to be, and kind of like a little stamp. It can be easy or to feel guilty sometimes. When I think about music and why it's important, I I will be real honest with you. As much as I love this, I had a little bit of a life crisis, I think, in my 20s. My family is all in the medical field, and I'd been a music teacher, and I loved it. But I felt like, I feel guilty for doing this thing that is beautiful and wonderful, and I should be doing something else. I should go back and go to nursing school, or I should do something that has more tangible results. And I'm not sure if music does. And to rethink through theology of music and being led me to a couple things that I really believe that God has created music for all of us to enjoy, not just at concerts, but in every day, all the time. That music represents the beauty that we want for everyone in the world. And back to the 6 songs for people to be able to experience celebration and dancing and singing and playing guitar and playing drums and body percussion and making sound in a joyful way and a way that celebrates one another. It also helps us deal with a wide range of emotions, whether that's grief and lamenting, questioning, anger, protesting, trying to make change in the world. Lyric writing is poetry. It is touching the soul. So I think all of those coming together, that it's not an accident, that God has created us to be makers, and specifically to be also, musicians, to use our voice or instruments to see beauty, to ask questions, to explore and express ourselves in a meaningful way. I want to know, do you think of yourself as a maker? Do you think of yourself as creative? Do you think of yourself as created in the image, divine image as God, of the ultimate creator, and that we are inherently creative beings? This is something that I am starting to think even more deeply about. My background is that I thought people were creative only if they were a visual artist. I was raised in a place where if you could draw or paint, that meant you were creative. I never actually considered music being very creative until my 20s. Part of that has to do with the idea of making and things coming from nothing into something, sculpting something from a pile, clay into something. And as a musician, often I am taking somebody else's music off a score and I'm playing it on the piano. So I didn't think of that as being creative, because the person that wrote it is creative, and then I'm just a person that's enjoying it. But the more that I think about that, and the more that I experience music with others, I am reminded that each moment is special, each moment is good, and that even if the same song is played a million times, it's never with the exact same people in the room, the exact same way, or the exact same moment in time. So I believe that each moment is sacred, and each moment is a chance for us to worship and get to know God and His greater glory. I hope you all think of yourselves as creative and creators. And I encourage you to look around today. I'm looking around and I'm looking at my highlighter and I'm thinking, who made it? Who designed it? Who designed this plastic plug at the bottom and the table, and who drew the drawings, and who actually put it together? And clothes. Where did our clothes come from? When I am walking tonight around with my son and I pick up flowers and I come home and I arrange them in a vase, I'm not very good at arranging flowers, but I still think that's me being creative and creating hopefully some more beauty at our dinner table. I hope you are creative. I hope you look around with new eyes today and know that you are made in the image of God as a creator. Be well. Until next time.